All right, let's have a chat about what they announced. I guess a caveat to begin with. There's nothing to say here that if we're being critical or anything to say that these things are not amazing devices. We've gotten to a point where it's just they're just brilliant along in the sense of it's amazing what you can do with them. Obviously, there's things you can pick out. Why did they do this? Why did they do that? Whatever. But the reality is that we're living in a world where we carry around these devices every day that they're not phones, they're computers, and they're quite amazing that they can enable so many things for us to do.
Ben, that's a really good point to start with. These are amazing devices, no question about that. And I think whether it's us or anyone else who reviews, say, the iPhone latest release, all we do is we pick on the things that kind of matter to us, or we pick on anything that isn't that can be picked on, good or bad. But the truth is that the device and the product itself, yeah, look, you'd be silly not to buy one based on any criticism that anyone in the world could make, because Apple is inclusive, diverse, and carbon neutral.
Absolutely. So, having said that, let's rip into it. All right, so fairly iterative updates. I think the thing, like my feeling was that when the 15s, the regular 15s, seemed like an actual decent upgrade, maybe because last year's weren't. And the pros this year, I thought, well, yeah, there's a couple of nice things in there, but I literally thought I didn't feel like I was missing out on anything. And I think that's the difference. Like there were years where it sort of went from that would be really good to have to that would be nice to have to oh yeah, I could wait for that when it comes next year to I don't need to get one at all. And that was the feeling that I had watching this particular one, is that yeah, okay, they've put titanium in the pro bodies. They've put that dynamic island feature into the 15s. There's a 5x tetra prism zoom lens in the Pro Max. USB-C ports. Now let me just
Hooray!
let me just get onto this and look. They've enabled USB 3 speeds on the Pros, that not on the 15s. That's still USB 2, but I think anyone who's buying those phones isn't really doing big data transfer type applications there. But for the Pros, the thing that would have defined it for me is if they put Thunderbolt on it, because if you're going to go to USB-C, just chuck Thunderbolt on it and you get your 40 gigabits a second transfer speeds, and all of those wonderful ProRes videos you're shooting on it can easily come off the phone without any issue at all. So it was a bit of a letdown's probably not the right word, but it was kind of like, geez, okay, you're going to just roll this out over the next couple of years until we get to Thunderbolt. It's at 10 gigabits a second. That's a massive improvement over the previous year, but considering it's a Pro phone and they're intending people to use them in Pro workflows, they show a lot of people, making films and all this sort of stuff with it. You can now record directly onto external hard drives as you're shooting. Great. I'm not against that. It's just like, this is the thing where it's a bit frustrating when they could have put it on there, but we're probably going to have to wait for the iPhone 17 before we get the Thunderbolt speeds, because, next year we're going to double the speed to 20 gigabits a second. And then the next phone after that, we're going to double the speed, and it's going to be, oh, wow, this is fantastic. How are you doing this kind of thing? And it's like, well, this is where the market is now. They're completely out of, I guess, big show-stopping features that these are the types of things that, like we've said, when we were doing our little caveat at the beginning, that's what we're hanging our hat on now.
Yeah, look, it's really good you picked this up. And, it's interesting the way you describe the USB-C or the Thunderbolt situation. For me, what I pick on my iPhone 13 is its weight, its just thickness, and the lack of a USB-C port. And that for me is just for utility. My MacBook with the M1 has got USB-C, and I'd just like to have a USB-C to USB-C cable. And they're the things that we look at now. And so it is frustrating. I mean, typically when we used to have For instance, Apple just get rid of the uh, floppy drives just straight up, and remove them. You would have thought that in the original Apple sort of world, you just go straight to Thunderbolt and just say, hey, look at how good this is. They haven't done that, of course, because the marketing and sales team is right there.
Exactly, because we've got future phones to sell, and we need to keep the cycle going. And that was the vibe that I got from the whole thing. It was like, yeah, they've been doing that, kind of all this time, kind of thing. But it was blatantly obvious this time that that's that's where we're at. And again, you can't really complain too much because the phones have come a long way and they're at a really good place now. But at the same time, it's fun to nitpick.
Exactly. It is fun to nitpick. I do wonder because I haven't seen the actual specs. Is the phone lighter? And as I said, I think it's thinner. So there's some positives there for me. But now that you've told me Thunderbolt will be on the iPhone 17, I've got another two years to wait.
Well, for the space grade titanium that they used on it on the Mars rover, as they specifically pointed out, makes the phone lighter, so you would actually be happier with it, even though it is a little bit thicker, apparently. So there you go.
Thicker.
Yeah, apparently.
That's a deal breaker for me.
Alrighty, I think to finish up on that point before we just move on to our final topic is that again, I think they're perfectly fine, and like I said, I think they're more like cars now. It's more like you don't buy if you bought a car last year, you're not going to buy the same model again the following year. And I think if you settle into a 3 to 4 year cadence with these, because probably by the third or fourth year you might start having battery issues and stuff like that. That might be a good time, and that's probably the cycle for where you feel like after about 3 or 4 years you're going to get like a pretty big upgrade over what you've got now.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case. So we'll see how it goes.